Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the CashFlowAlexio show. I'm here with Jonathan Mitchel of ADUpals. He's also the host of the Skip the Lines podcast. And today we're just going to kind of talk about what he does, what I do, and what we're doing to help San Diego with the affordable housing crisis. Jonathan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. My name is Jonathan Mitchel, as Alexio mentioned, and I am the host of the Skip the Lines podcast with me, your host, Jonathan Mitchel. And we're going to do sort of like a mesh podcast today with Alexio's pod and my pod, and we're going to put it together. We're going to try something new. So congratulations, guys. This is the first one, so hopefully it goes well. Alexio's going to lead the show to start, and then we're kind of going to rat-a-tat-tat, piggyback off one another. We're going to mix sort of our podcast styles together and hopefully get some good content for you guys to enjoy and consume about real estate in general, about investing in general, about the San Diego markets, and whatever else comes to mind. So,
awesome. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Well, why don't you tell me about, I know you have a couple, you're involved in a couple different ways in San Diego real estate. What is ADUpals, and how did that come about?
Great question, bro. Love it. ADUpals is our brand. It's our company. We started it at the end of last year. I've been investing in real estate since 2016.
Awesome.
My partners also have been investing in real estate for quite a while. But we just saw the need in San Diego. We've obviously been hearing about the affordable housing crisis that's across the country, and even from a macro, maybe even across the world in some places. And the opportunity that's here in San Diego, being from here, it was just too good to pass up. Timing is really important. I was essentially getting out of another business and scaling that down. And it was like, hey, look, we want to own real estate. We love real estate as an asset. How are we going to do this? And essentially it was like, well, we understand it. We've been investing. We've been contractors. We know how to build. We know how to put teams together. Let's do it. So we leaned all in, and here we are. So we have a three-pronged approach. We have a B2C, which we call them Tom and Sally homeowners. They want to do garage conversions. They want to build ADUs for cash flow, for their family, for their retirement. We also do JVs. We call those B2B. So maybe investors like you or others around, people that were in e-commerce, engineers, people that own real estate and want to team up with a group like us on the development side and the build side. And then we have essentially our own portfolio where we're using our own equity and raising capital from investors to invest into our own projects.
Awesome. Of those three prongs, which one are you most excited about today?
I mean, they all have pros and cons, right? I think at the end of the day, our business model is based around our desire to own cash flowing real estate internally, our own group. We're investors first. We tell all of our clients that. All of our clients have loved that, Alexio, because it's hard-earned experience, bro. We use our own equity. We've really, really worked hard. We've been in the trenches for years and years and years of real estate. Our COO has been a contractor for, 20 years, man. So we understand real estate, and we're at the point in our lives and our careers now where we just want to own as much of it as we can. And we're able to give that back to our clients and our customers. And it's been, hard fought and well earned. So we obviously love the aha moment when someone's like, yeah, I can retire with this, or this is going to help me in the long run, make money, cash flow on my property that I only own. That's really awesome too.
While they sleep. I mean, that aha is freaking awesome.
It's the best, dude.
When you come to that realization and you really look at a spreadsheet, and then the one day where it clicks, you're like, oh my gosh, why haven't I been planting these trees for the last 20 years?
100%.
And I'm happy that I was introduced to that aha moment in my early 20s and started
How old are you
chasing
now?
it then. I'm 31. I just turned 31 last week.
Oh, bro.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't figure it out. They work at W-2 and then they, save in a 401k, just that little bit of extra income every year. And then by the time they're 45, they're like, I want to retire. And then they learn about real estate. And they're like, oh my gosh, I could have been investing in this for the last 20 years. And I mean, if you look at values of what they were 20 years ago, how appealing it would be to have gotten in at that time. I mean, that could have just appreciation alone in San Diego could have added $50,000 to $100,000 per year if you just bought a duplex in 2004.
Yeah, we talk about that in real estate weekly, sometimes daily. if we would have, we should have, we should have.
It
never ends.
It's always I should have bought more.
Yeah.
Well, but for me, the appreciation is kind of like the bonus. The cash flow, the principal pay down, and the depreciation benefits are what you experience on a year-to-year basis. The appreciation is what you experience long-term. Oftentimes, appreciation ends up being as good or better than the cash flow that you were generating and all of the other benefits that you generated over the years. But those four food groups, the cash flow, principal pay down, depreciation, and appreciation are what makes real estate the best asset class out there, in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree. Those are the four pillars.
Right.
And they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Even if you make a tremendous amount of money on the market, you make a tremendous amount of money, in crypto or something like that, that's a little bit more risky. A lot of that money ends up flowing into real estate.
Right.
So that's another reason why I love it, because like you said, as an asset class, obviously there are the four pillars, but people want to diversify their portfolios, and it's safe and there's upside, which we can get into as well, which is why the ADU play is so amazing, right? Because we mitigate on the down and we gain on the up. We get a developer spread.
Right.
Yeah.
You have like this arbitrage that it just does not exist in stocks, because you say, okay, I want to buy Tesla. I want to effectively do something to increase the value of Tesla. What can I do?
Nothing. You're not an operator.
You can't do it. You're just kind of on the roller coaster. Real estate, you can get as involved or as little involved as you want, but the common business model is just renovate the property, increase the rent to a market rate that reflects the new value that you've created. You've made it a nice, polished, finished product. Now someone's willing to pay more for it. And that's effectively increase the value of the property, increase the cash flow that you create. But that was from you actually going in, problem solving, making decisions, taking out a wall, changing the backsplash, really walking through Home Depot and seeing if this tile matches with this tile and making mistakes and then changing it on the next one. Those are all ways that, and after you've done, many projects like you have, you kind of end up with the finishes. You kind of have an idea of what works, what doesn't work. Brushed nickel works with like the gray cabinets, white works with black, gold, or silver. And those decisions become easier. At first, it's kind of overwhelming, but that's how you can get involved to actually effectively improve the value of your property. You cannot do that with stocks.
100%.
And
that is why I feel like stock should be left to stock guys. I think there are unicorns that can do multiple well. It's really difficult though, because if you're trading stocks and you're in the market, it's a full-time job, dude. Especially because you're not an operator. Especially because you have no ability to control, those quarterly calls. You can go, if you're investing in See's Candy, you can go buy candy and put it in your piñata for your quinceañeras. Yeah. But at the end of the day, bro, that's really all you can do. You can't affect their bottom line.
No, and that's not going to change anything in terms of stock value.
Exactly.
We're talking about pennies and pennies and pennies and pennies and pennies of their revenue.
Gotta buy a lot of See's Candy, bro. You gotta buy a lot of See's Candy.
End up paying for a lot of dentists.
It's going to be a lot of quinceañeras.
Speaking of, you can only do so many things. What I've found is I've kind of grown in real estate as I'm passionate in learning all these things. It sounds like you have too over the years, and you have a family of ADUpals, you're investing in your own real estate. Do you find yourself sometimes wearing too many hats or trying to push and deciding which hats you're going to keep wearing and pass off to the next guy?
It's a really, really good question. I used to run a company. I had 115 employees. I had 100 sales guys that worked for me.
Jeez,
so I built a pretty big, not big, it's relative. I built a relatively large company. We did over 120 million. I bootstrapped it. I didn't know about reading a P&L. I've told this story many times. Didn't know how to read a P&L. Didn't know what a balance sheet was. Didn't know what cash flow statements were. I built all that, or we built that from the ground up.
And you learned by doing.
I learned a lot. So that Alex Hormozy quote I seen like 2 weeks ago, where it's like the first business you had is not the one you get rich on, it's the one you learn in. So I have applied all of that, Alexio, into this business. What to do, what not to do. Obviously don't know it all. I'm learning every day, which is why I love business as well. But to answer your question, I love work, dude. Like, I love it. I love to work. I love making money. I love building new relationships, like with a guy like you who's out doing it. We talked about that on the phone today when we were a little bit prepping. Like, guys that are really getting after it, that are really making money, really investing their money and doing the thing, it gives me so much energy, bro, because I don't come from a lot, man. I come from very, very humble beginnings. And the opportunity that we have in real estate, in this city, in this space, the way that debt works, the way that equity works, the way that we have the internet now where you can learn. We have YouTube University, you go on podcasts, books.
Best time to be alive. Easy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And people are like, you know, this and that, and like, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on.
Now.
Whatever side you're on, it doesn't matter your politics, bro. Like at the end of the day, it's all green. Go get it.
Exactly, and there's no excuse. It used to be encyclopedia. I got to go buy the Britannica. I got to meet this guy to figure it out. The information's all there. All you got to do is like follow a guy that is doing something that you're interested in, and over time, next thing you know, you're going to be understanding a lot more about that subject, probably more than that instructor or professor that you were following in university who was doing this 10 years ago, because so much has changed in 10 years. You're going to be getting the information from someone who's doing it today, and I think that's way more valuable than what you see in a textbook. It's always
agreed. You can learn information, something that you're really hyper-focused on, you can learn quickly.
At your own pace.
I will say this too, Alexio, just to go back to your question. I mean, yeah, you obviously get spread thin, but the point is that you have to build systems. And that's what a business actually is. It's systems, so you can make money in your sleep. You can plug and play. There's a problem with an employee and you have to, part ways. You can plug someone else into the system and you manage the system. Now, from a ground up business or a startup, that's a heavy lift. It's a lot of work. It's why companies fail. Often they run out of cash, they run out of time, they run out of momentum, they run out of energy, and oftentimes they don't even have the right product. So we've pressure tested our business every way we can. It's the same way we approach investing. We have a thesis, we don't steer clear from it. We don't fudge the numbers to make it work. Either it works or it doesn't, and this works, man. I mean, you're in the game. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and this thing is going to explode, bro.
So much opportunity. Yeah.
It's going to explode.
All it takes is someone to understand even just the most basic zoning laws, and then start looking around at properties that are even available on the market. And no one even makes that extra effort, and you can find value anywhere where you can add it, whether that's an ADU, converting a garage, knowing, oh, hey, this happens to be in a high density complete community zone. That means I can build 4 stories and I can do 8 units back here. Maybe I'll just buy this thing, put the business plan together, and then I'll flip it to someone else for $100,000, $200,000 profit, wholesale it. Or I'll build it out myself and maybe shoot for $1 million if I can put together the pieces, the equity and the debt. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's just about how many of these can you handle, how many inspectors can you talk to, how many contractors, teams can you manage.
Yeah, that really is business, right? Time.
Right.
And especially in the entrepreneurial world, it's time. How big can you go? How big should you go? Right? More is not always more. And then you got to know what you're doing too, because you can get your lunch ate pretty quick.
Oh yeah. Well, I have luckily I've been only involved in projects that have been profitable. It's just we were talking about maybe some of the biggest challenges in our careers. One of the biggest challenges I've faced in my career was this 5-unit project east of downtown. I call it Naranjo University. It was supposed to be an 18-month project where I renovate all 5 units, and then I convert all 5 garages into 5 ADUs.
I think I saw you post about this. It was you vacated them all at the same time, and then some vagrants got in.
So rough area town.
Yeah.
It's near where they call the 4 corners of death. I think it's Euclid and Market is what they call that.
Tough area.
Yeah, super rough. And I think it's improved a lot since they used to call it the 4 corners of death.
I really don't think we have a ghetto in San Diego,
really,
for the record.
Right.
There are places in the country and in the world that are way worse.
Yeah.
I think that's one of probably the roughest hoods though in the city actually.
Yeah, I would agree. So anyway, I kind of came in as one of my first projects. I had to evict the tenants because it was just really bad living conditions, and I was going in to clean it up and improve it. There's mold everywhere. There's roaches in every corner. It was not good.
Fixer.
Yeah. So I went in, fixed all the units, vacated them all at the same time. Ended up with vagrants moving in. I had to hire round the clock security. It was a total nightmare. I rushed to get those fixed up and tenants in there, because tenants, you find out later after experience, are free security, because when there's people in there with lights, people aren't going to come knocking around because someone's going to call the cops.
100%.
So, in fact, they're paying you and they're giving you security.
And they're paying down your principal.
Yeah.
And they're creating cash flow.
Exactly. So luckily, this project made sense just as a 5-unit. But I also had submitted permits to convert, because San Diego has the rule for you can convert non-habitable square footage into unlimited ADUs. That's how it read when the ADU laws came out, and I think that's still how it reads. And I heard that and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is the move, because as a broker, I know that price per unit's a big metric for banks and buyers. And I know that if I can convert this only, I think it was 1,000 square feet of garage space in total, 5 garages, 200 square feet each, into 5 units, that price per units metric is going to come way down, and it's going to help me get a higher value on the exit. I'm going to get higher cash flow because I get better rent per square foot on smaller units.
Question, how are you, because this is interesting as a broker, right? I know a bunch of brokers in the space.
Yeah.
We talked about that. We know a bunch of the same guys. How are you running comps, Alexio? So are you using comps? Are you using cap rates?
Well, it depends on the property. If you're under 4 units, you have to use, if closer to 4 units, you use like a little mix of a cap rate and comp approach. But
if you have, let's say on this property, right, you had 5 and then you added 5 or you converted 5. I don't know if you did, you're going to finish the story, but let's say you have 10. You can't comp that out with a proper 10 unit multifamily. It's not the same.
Well, no, you
asset.
can now. Yeah, so that's how we comp it out. And that's how buyers are honestly buying these things. And we're selling, there's people building 24 ADUs in North Park. They're going to sell it as a 24 unit apartment building, because the type of buyer buying those kind of products, they have access to the same financing. That's the difference why I said 4 units and under is different, because your financing is different. And the financing, they have to have exact comparable sales. They don't care about the cap rate. 5 units and up, it's just a cap rate approach. And those lenders don't care whether it's an ADU or a unit.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some research about that, because I've heard mixed thoughts about that. Obviously 1 to 4 is 1 to 4, right?
Right.
But I've heard mixed thoughts about parking. I've heard mixed thoughts about how it's essentially written in the code, deed restrictions, all this stuff comparatively,
right,
apples to apples, if the numbers actually align for a proper multifamily zoned 20 unit or 10 comparatively to a 5 unit or a 4, and then you add 4 ADUs.
Well, my experience is that if there's no, as you know, some ADUs, if you're going to do more than a certain density of ADUs, you end up with affordability restrictions or a deed restriction like a junior, where you have to live on site. When there's those kind of deed restrictions involved, then you got to start incorporating affordable comparables. You've got a limit on how much you can get on the rent. And also you have to deal with the housing commission, and that's just extra paperwork every year. People are going to want a little bit of a premium or a discount, for dealing with that extra headache. But in my case, I've just got 5 on non-deed restricted garage converted ADUs. It's
let's get back to that. Okay, so you brought the tenants in. You had a little bit of a rough go when you were rehabbing it. You brought the new tenants in.
So I got the new tenants in, and we rented those units. We got great rent, and over the years, the rent's gone up dramatically since COVID. But in the planning process for my ADUs, this was really early. I was like one of the first multi-ADU projects in San Diego that hit the city, and not to mention it was COVID and there were like no reviewers, so that just delayed every single like one way. It was like you'd send an email and you get an email back like a month later. It was really slow. But anyway, COVID was terrible. It was the worst. I hated it.
For the cities, bro.
It was the worst for everybody. I don't know why we really shut down like we did. Anyway, different subject. But we submitted, and I had the option. They said, hey, you're going to get stuck with MEP unless you do an air gap, because you're going to have 5 units touching. And if you have more than 2 units touching, you have to do California Building Code, MEP.
ADA.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. And at the time, I don't think I had to do ADA, but now that's been implemented since. But at the time, I didn't want to do that because I had only 200 square foot units. I didn't want to give up a foot, because that's literally like 20 square feet. It's like 10% of one of my units. I was like, no, I'm just going to do the MEP. Hindsight, I should have just done 4 units, because it ended up costing me 3 extra years of just going back and forth with the city. And we go one way and we'd overcome one challenge, and then they'd say, and then we'd say, okay, well, we're going to use these 2 different water meters. And then they're like, we get all the way to the finish line, and there's 5 departments talking. 4 of them say okay, the 5th one says no, and then you got to go back to the drawing report. And then like
case in point, why you got to get started though. That's 100% what I talk about on my podcast all the time, you guys. You got to earn your reps. You got to earn your stripes. Alexio is making a very, very valid point, which is, hey, look, he knows now he's not going to do that again. It's going to be, look, simple, fast. If I actually break this thing down and pencil it out, underwrite it the proper way, what is my actual return? More is not always more. what type of inventory I'm bringing to market, what type of unit, where that unit is, can I afford to not have parking? Should I have parking? Should I not?
Yeah.
What's coming online? All of that stuff matters in this game.
Yeah.
What I'm bringing, like how I'm building these things.
Well,
Am I going R3? Am I going R2?
Yeah.
And what are the pros and cons to both?
To me, I think where the line is drawn is you better be going like an extra 3 units or more if you're going to go to R2, which is the MEP. If you're going to not get more than 3 extra units, then I would just stick with R3 and just call it a day, because that R2 is going to cost you an extra year and just a series of nightmares and headaches that just aren't worth it. They aren't worth it. I mean,
the
you can apply
planner
that
thing is
time
a
and
huge
energy.
thing. Going from 4 planners to 12 planners, you have...
And 4 different inspectors versus the one that kind of just jack of all trades lets a lot of things slide.
That's right. Yeah, and they're not always talking to one another. And then you have obviously the utilities.
No.
I mean, I don't have a number in my head where I'm like, this is the unit count that makes sense. I always look at every project, individually. But I mean, that's an interesting approach. I think the point I'm making though is that you learn by doing, and I talk about that all the time. Like you gotta earn that.
Well,
like you have that experience now, Alexio. Whereas if someone who's was afraid to take that jump for the pain of or the loss of money, the value of the knowledge that you have in your mind is going to make you so much money in the long run.
Yeah, Naranja University is like prime me for like all the projects I do now, where we make like $500,000 to $1 million per project over like a year to 18 months. And I would not be comfortable or even in any position to like make these decisions to execute on the purchase if I hadn't been through this experience that was daunting, but it taught me so much. And I wouldn't say that I wouldn't do MEP again. I think the biggest learning lessons from that were I need to be working with a team that has the experience, has already done that before, because the teams I was working with, they were also I was the guinea pig. So they were learning based off of what my project was doing.
I'm not going to mention any names.
No, you don't need to. In the end, they actually pulled through. They stuck by my side, so I really appreciate them for that. But you need to be working with experienced people who've done exactly what you're trying to do, because they will have the bird's eye view to avoid a lot of obstacles and save you from a 4-year project to keep it under your timeline of maybe a year or 18 months. And as you know, there's holding costs involved. You got to pay the principal and the interest on your note. You got to pay the property taxes.
Burn, baby, burn. You got to burn, baby.
That's just money disappearing into the wind as you're waiting.
Time is the killer of deals, guys.
Because time literally is money in this business, because until you're actually making money on your project, you're losing money every month because you're paying the bank, you're paying property taxes, you're paying insurance. So that's a big burn. We call it the bleed. And you don't want to be bleeding for 4 years. Luckily, that project, if you are going to get involved, ADUs are a great way, because you already have the 5 units. Those 5 units were paying my mortgage, and they were making cash flow. Like, it was already a good deal with just the 5 units. Imagine if I had just vacant land, which happens to people, and you're paying all this stuff on land that's not making you a dime. It's just straight bleed. And you're planning on 1 year, it takes you 4 years. That's 4 times. That could eat up all of the cash, all of the upside that you're planning on making.
There's a couple ways you could do that deal. Number one would be you JV with the landowner, and they essentially put up the dirt as their portion of the equity for the upside.
Yeah.
If you buy the dirt yourself, it's really hard to get debt because lenders see the glass half empty.
Right.
And so they want to have something to attach to if, God forbid, something goes wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Where with dirt, they don't have that because it's not entitled. It's less valuable. Now, for us as investors with infill development, we've already mitigated a lot of that risk, right? So we're not properly entitling. It's technically not entitling at all, but if I buy a piece of dirt, let's say way out in, I don't know, Marietta or something, and it's just dirt. Now, a big developer would come in, obviously buy that dirt, right? Go through tentative and final maps.
Yeah, entitle
the property, and then they could sell it off to, say, KB Homes or Lennar or a big builder who buys it entitled
and then goes out credit,
and does all the infrastructure. Where for us, we don't really have to do that often. And I think sometimes in this, and I'll ask you again as a broker, Alexio, sometimes I run into guys who are like, they're trying to make the same amount of money on a deal because of the zoning, but half the lot is unbuildable. And they don't really make the connection that you're essentially losing the value of the dirt that we can't build on because there's either a ravine or there's going to be a retaining wall.
Well, every seller's shit doesn't stink. So
of course not, dude.
You have to work through and manage expectations.
$60 billion, bro.
And there's a gold mine underneath. No,
100%.
It's a matter of talking to these owners, and what's really helpful is not only has this helped me in terms of doing more deals myself, like in terms of equity projects where I'm building ADUs, but like the knowledge that Naranjo University and all these other projects that I'm working on has made me so much more valuable as a broker, because I can just speak this language and be an incredible resource to buyers and sellers. We can talk about business models to help achieve sellers higher expectations of purchase price that other brokers just don't have the confidence to talk about.
I love that, dude.
So
we're speaking the same language.
They all mesh together, and then I also I manage 60 units for my family at the same time. So when I was asking you about hats at the beginning of this, I've wearing quite a few right now, and it's like overwhelming. But even on the management side, you start to that experience has also helped me be more effective as a broker, because I know how to interact with tenants. I've served 60-day notices. I've talked to the tenants, because humanized them, talked to them, found ways to negotiate and get a cash out a cash
and that's
fees,
part of the
and really
job.
help them around. But you really have to have all of these tenants you have to understand all of these. Otherwise, you go in, you're like, okay, I got the construction knowledge, I know how to buy a property, but man, this property's got tenants. How am I going to get them out? I read the stories online. What about squatters? All that stuff. You're missing that key pillar that you need, the confidence of how to work with the people that already are on the property, and the know-how and the confidence to know how to remove them. And,
the experience of doing the thing is invaluable, bro.
Right.
We're dealing with 2 tenants. Well, we're almost there. We're dealing with that right now. I think, having some sales acumen, like leading from a place of empathy, service, being kind, just in general, understanding that that's a human being, whether they're paying paying the rent or not, it's a human. So being able to navigate that line of, okay, at the end of the day, this is an asset. At the end of the day, I'm on the hook. My team is on the hook for this money.
Yeah.
So this has to move forward. But how can we do it with some compassion?
So Jonathan, you're wearing all these other hats. Do you just offload that to a management company, or are you the person talking to the tenants yourself? Because that's a tough conversation for an average Joe to have.
It depends on the situation. I am generally like, if something's tough and it's not getting done, I will just step in often to help get it done. Because I feel like, what's his name? Jensen, NVIDIA.
Oh yeah, the CEO of NVIDIA.
Yeah. Jensen Huang, I want to say his name,
right.
something like that. He said he used to clean toilets.
Right.
Nothing is beneath me. I used to clean toilets. In fact, I've cleaned more toilets than all of you in this room. So I'm the same way. Like I don't, like I'm just
get in the trenches. Yeah.
100%, bro. Like I'll close a deal. I'll talk to a tenant. Obviously dealing with equity and lenders and all that stuff I do all the time. But you've asked me a ton of questions, bro. Let me ask you some questions.
All right, for sure. Let's do it.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Vista, North County.
Okay,
Yeah.
so San Diego boy.
Yeah, I grew up in Vista, North County. Went to high school up there.
What high school? Vista?
Rancho Buena Vista.
Okay.
Yeah, and then was lifeguard in Oceanside for 7 summers. Went to school in Santa Cruz. Got my degree in business management and economics and emphasis in accounting. Helped me.
Did you ever want to be a CPA?
Oh, at the time I did, and I'm so happy I didn't. I don't even do my own taxes anymore. I pay someone for that.
Of course not, bro.
Which is, honestly, it's one of the most daunting fields, because the tax code changes every year. Like, just to keep up, the education and just that landscape of rules is ever changing. I guess we have a similar ever changing landscape of rules in real estate, but at least this one's more interesting to me.
CPAs are very trusted though. So you want to talk about property management and just deal flow and lead sources.
And they're essential.
CPAs are they get a lot of leads.
Well, and you really have, and what's really cool is when you get one that knows the loopholes of real estate, and I call them loopholes, but they're actually tax incentives to incentivize people to get involved in real estate. The biggest one being the depreciation, and then now the cost segregation for real estate professionals or for people doing the short-term rental business, so that they can use that to offset their personal income tax.
Yeah, guys, to Alexio's point, the government incentivizes behavior that they want to see from us, Americans. So if they want to see a certain type of behavior, which is investing in real estate in the United States of America, they incentivize you to do that. So they don't want you to take your money out and move it though, which is why capital gains exist.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, what do you do for fun? Focus round.
I got a 18-month-old.
Yep.
And
I see you posting all the time. Looks like you guys do a lot of family stuff.
We have a lot of fun. We love travel in our family, so we try to get out every 6 weeks. I try to take a week off and go visit somewhere new, usually someplace green, because San Diego's not super green. It's more brown here. But that's what I do. I hang out with my family. I like to play soccer and water polo when I have time. Don't have as much time anymore with the kid, but trying to get back into it.
Love it. Opportunity. What was one opportunity that was a game changer for you?
I would say that Naranja opportunity I see it as an opportunity, even though it felt daunting.
You buy that off the market?
Yeah, actually, I was repping a buyer on it. It was off market from someone in South Coast here, and the buyer was wavering. And like as I was walking the deal with the buyer, I was like, "This is a sick deal." And the buyer, I was like explaining it to the buyer, I was like, "You really should buy this thing." And he was like, "Nah, dude, I just don't see it. I'm going to cancel." I'm like, "All right, well, how about you sign the contract to me? Like, if you don't want to buy it, I want to buy it." So we ended up doing that.
Nice.
I got the contract assigned over from my own buyer. I got paid a commission on the way in. And we funded that one.
Do you
with
feel like
funds.
being in the market as a broker, Alexio, gives you access to more deals? You're doing property management. You have a CPA background. It sounds like you have obviously an extensive sort of repertoire. But being a broker, do you feel like because you're in the market, because you're sourcing buyers, because you're representing sellers, that it gives you essentially more opportunity as an investor?
Of course. And the information, we have weekly conference calls in this room about what's happening, what's new, what are rates, what are the new rules on the agenda, what are we voting on next month.
And the brokerage you work for is?
South Coast Commercial.
South Coast Commercial. Yeah. We are in Point Loma at Alexio's office shooting the pod.
Yeah.
Love it.
I've been here for 9 years, and I would attribute all, and you know what the coolest thing about being part of this brokerage is, as you're learning, you want to be around people who are plugged in and experienced in the space. Like there's a lot of builders here, there's a lot of really experienced brokers, and I was able to ask questions every single day when I'm showing up in between cold calls. Hey, how do I navigate this objection? Hey, this guy says.
So you guys have a good
here,
sort of training program or mentorship program.
You know, I wouldn't say it's like it's more of a loosey-goosey training. I think the training is by doing and asking questions. It requires someone at South Coast, you're required to ask questions. You don't come here and then go through some sort of like portal where you have to get through these different sections of an online course.
Yeah.
It's hey, talk to people on the phones and ask questions. Get interested, apply yourself, and ask questions. And this was a perfect place for me because
go for it, and we'll help you.
That's the type of learner I am.
Same.
And everybody was more than happy to share all.
Tell me the goal that we're working on here. I have my own goals.
Yeah.
Let me go, and then help me along the way.
It doesn't work for everybody, though. We have a lot of agents come and go because they really need someone to tell them what to do.
They're systematic.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've never been the kind of person that likes to be told what to do. So.
You're an entrepreneur, bro. You're an entrepreneur. Choose your own destiny, right?
Right.
Let's go to communication. Obviously, a brilliant communicator. What is your tip for, communication?
Communication. Honestly, I was just watching I'm always trying to learn more, and I was watching it was like a keynote speech this morning from a guy he's talking about sales and what the most important thing with sales is. I think the most important thing with life is that even the people I talk to on the phone, it's about finding what they are passionate about and actually learning from them. Just like I said here at South Coast, I was asking questions all the time. I'm actually interested in most things. So you find someone who's a helicopter pilot, like you get deep into, what did it take to get there? Man, what is like one of your biggest, this is a great question. I learned this from Jeff Fenster. It's like, what is the biggest challenge that you're trying to overcome in your business today? And then you let them talk about it. And people don't get asked that often, but that is a question. And then oftentimes they'll tell you the answer, like, oh, hey, right now I'm trying to scale from like 1 helicopter to 3 helicopters. And the biggest problem is I don't have financing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I talked to a lot of lenders. This one guy does business lending. Let me have you talk to him, and you connect the dots. And then they end up being able to, you solve this guy's problem, creates a great relationship. Now he's like, dude, I want to work with that broker who like helped me with something in my own business, had nothing to do with real estate, but like now I want to buy real estate, or I want to tell my friends about real estate, I'm going to tell them about him. I think it's about so to answer your question, best thing about communicating is asking questions that turn people on. Not because like you just want to toot their horn or whatever, because you actually are interested. They have something to say that's actually going to, it's so easy to get interested in what people are passionate about because they're experts in their own field.
Yeah, I love that, and I 100% agree. I've been hearing a lot of stuff coming down the pike recently about ask questions and be quiet, but I feel like you're onto something because I agree. I feel like there's so much angling when it comes to that. It's like, well, now what's the perfect amount of time to wait for the question or whatever? Like, no, it's like actually invest in what this guy's passionate about, and you get to learn something.
Dude,
which is added value. It's actually cool because to your helicopter analogy, it's like, I think knowing some stuff about helicopters is pretty cool. Helicopters are dope.
Dude, I could say the same thing about like a sewer line, because I'm like, yeah, sewer lines are not notoriously dope, but like, you know, I'm constantly building sewer lines. I'm like, huh. Okay,
you know what's great about sewer and plumbing? I'm actually going to post about this, bro.
Oh, yeah?
Just imagine your life without plumbing.
I think about that sometimes. I don't think anybody else does.
Imagine your life without plumbing. One day, dude, without plumbing in your house, bro, your whole life is going to go to shit.
I had a tenant call me at 8:30 p.m. Saturday night. Hey, our plumbing's backed up.
Yeah.
And it was like both tenants at the same time because they were on the same line. I was like, oh, fuck. And it's Sunday tomorrow. Luckily, I have a good contractor in North County who does all my stuff. He's like, okay, I'll go check it out in the morning. Hit it with a snake, emptied it out, but it was like coming up you got plumbing coming up the toilet.
Same thing with summer AC, bro. Same thing with summer AC.
Medieval times, dude. I don't know how they survived.
Okay, 2 more on the focus round. We're moving quick. You, understanding. What is one thing you wish you had understood a little bit earlier in your career or maybe even in your life, Alexio?
I think the thing I wish I understood earlier would probably be about doing more deals sooner. But the way to do more deals is you have to understand how capital stacks work. And up until this last year, I wasn't even really recently partnered with a guy. I let him in on a project he really wanted to be a part of. And I was reluctant because I was going to make a lot of money on it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to split this pie. I've already got it lined up. But I was like, this guy knows a lot. I probably can learn something from him. I let him in on the project. I'm so happy I did, because he is a lender. And he introduced me to construction lenders who offer, they've made it so that I don't have to pay out of pocket for my ADUs. They are now creating the financing to where I get better terms, lower down payment on the purchase, and then they fund 100% of my ADUs. That means that instead of the one project, I can do 5 projects. And that means I can amplify my equity growth by 5x.
So by giving this guy, let's say, I'm just going to use random numbers. These are not the numbers for the actual project. Let's say you were going to make $1 million net. Mm-hmm. And this guy came in, and again, I don't even want to know the equity stake, it doesn't matter, but let's say he wanted a 50% of the equity, and you acquiesced to that and agreed to let him in. So he's making $500,000 where you would have made $1 million on one project. But by having this guy, forming a partnership and a relationship with him, tapping into his network, his expertise, it has now opened up the ability for you to essentially make 500,000 times 5, which is 2.5 million, in addition to what you can make on the next 5, 10, 15 projects.
Yeah, just means that I can do that every single year.
It's the difference between, I talk about this all the time, guys, abundance and scarcity, right? Like, the knowledge that I have is mine, I earned it, but if you give that to someone else and don't charge them for it, I think, and I'm proof of this, it's gonna come back to you.
Totally.
Over and over and over in abundance.
100%. We talk about that in our group all the time, dude.
There is.
I'm an open book, bro. Like, ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer, because there's more money in this world than I can make or you can make.
It really is funny when people like try to hold the cards close to the chest because they're like nervous that there's not enough pie, when like literally there's pie everywhere. Everywhere.
There literally is pie everywhere. Like, we could go knock doors right now and get a deal, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure we could, like, if we put our heads together right now, we could make a $50,000 pie.
We could 100% make some cold calls and take that deal right now. All right, success.
Coming up next episode, cold calls between Jonathan and CashFlowAlexio.
We're gonna make it happen. I'll do some cold calls, bro.
Success. To what do you attribute your success? You talked about this a little bit. Circling back.
I just think it's about having this super curious learning mindset, and just, I mean, in brokerage, you do a lot of work for free, and you work for a long time while you're still learning, and you don't make any money. And I've kind of done that many times. I've also been working, trying to find deals, just underwrite my spreadsheets on lots and lots, probably thousands of properties, and like, that's just lost time. But it's lost time if you think about it as like one and done. But all that gave me the confidence to actually execute and buy properties. and then work with other people, learn, and then over time it all compounds because you've built all these relationships. So it just starts happening faster and faster, and like you're drinking from a fire hose at first, but then you're like, I can't handle it, but then you just get better at drinking at the speed of a fire
Well, your
hose.
systems get better.
Yeah.
Your experience gets better. You become an expert in what you're doing.
Right.
Right? If you pick up a jump rope and you don't know how to jump, any analogy you want to make, riding a bike, right? At the beginning, you first start riding a bike, you don't know how to ride. Then eventually you can pick the bike up really fast, get on it, and start riding.
Right.
And then you can't pedal up a hill. But then you start being able, you keep
Right.
pedaling and pedaling and pedaling, and then you can pedal faster. And then when you get on a straightaway or downhill, it's just repetition of the thing.
Yeah.
And then over time, you get better and better and better at the thing, and it becomes
more exciting. And like even at first, something might
So, like,
sound a
when we
little
fir-
dull, but when you unpeel back the layers of the onion, you start to. It's like fascinating.
100%.
No matter what subject you.
Learning
get
is, I love learning. Dude, we're connecting on that for sure.
yeah.
When I first
Magic
started
school
getting
bus,
into
dude.
this space, breaking down a feasibility report, as is known in the industry, we call them PPRs, a property potential report. Those took time, a lot of time. And now, I mean, I can break down a property and
No, you can look at it
in my head, I can break it down. Obviously, getting it down on paper and then doing crossing your I's and dotting your T's. No, crossing your T's and dotting your
I
I's,
messed that one up, yeah.
and making sure that what you're presenting to the customer, you have to really, really
For sure.
make sure it's dialed in. But when I'm looking at it, I can know whether it's a good property for me,
Which saves a lot of
really
time
quick.
because you can see it and then you're like, okay, I don't need to get into the weeds on this one. It's not a good deal.
100%.
Next. But at first you're just in the weeds on every one.
Yeah, this one's going to be
Practicing
good.
being in the weeds. Yeah.
Complete communities, bro. This one's going to be a win.
We could build 80 units on a 5,000 square foot lot.
140 units. What about mobilizing your guys? Don't worry about that. What about staging? Don't worry about that. What about parking? Don't worry about that. 800 units, bro.
That is what's nice about my 5 unit with the 5 extra ADUs is I was able to give one parking space to everyone, which even though they're tiny units, the parking's huge. People just want a parking spot and they want a place to lay their head. So even though it's a tiny space, smaller than this room, they're paying, $1,600 a month for them. So
100%.
Parking is huge, and it's going to become even more at a premium, I think, as we go on,
Yeah.
and more units come online without it. Okay, let's talk about a couple of other things. We're running on, I think we're about 40 minutes. How you feeling?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's do another 10 with you, and then I got some other questions, kind of similar stuff with you.
Okay, so I normally get into the meat of it, and then I do skip the line. So what we'll do is I think it's fair if I ask you some questions,
Yeah.
and then we'll get into the meat of sort of what you're looking for, because I actually do ask that question, because I can't problem solve unless I know.
Yeah.
And then skip the line hacks. Cool?
Cool. Sounds great.
All right, brother. So you're born in North County, San Diego. You went to school for accounting and business up in Santa Cruz. You obviously like the water. Family guy. Did you come out of college immediately and did you get into commercial real estate?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think a good piece of advice for anybody who's coming out of college is just like the best time to go do a little sabbatical. And I went to Thailand with my now wife for 45 days, and we explored all around. You just don't get that many opportunities in life to take 45 days or 2 months to just go explore. Usually, you're restricted on, like, if it's a W-2, you only get like 2 weeks or whatever. But that's a good little time where you have that opportunity, so seize it, because you don't get that opportunity very often. So I did that, came back, felt super nice. I was like, cool, I got all that out of my system. I'm ready to just hit the, pound the pavement, figure something out. My dad had just worked with a broker to purchase an apartment building in North County. And he was like, hey, you want to try real estate?
What did your father do?
He's full French. I'm French American, so I'm half and half. He immigrated here in right around when I was born, early 90s, and then learned from my grandpa how to manage property. Ended up buying a property, like buying out the brothers and sisters-in-law one at a time. Was able to get 100% control of one property, manage that, and then refinance, bought another one.
So he's in real estate.
Yeah, so he kind of also planted the seed that my grandpa planted with me. And with me anyway, he was talking to a broker at South Coast, and that guy had helped put him into a deal, and he said, hey, why don't you go shadow this guy for a day, see if you want to like learn from him for a couple months, see if it works. So I did that, followed this guy around. He was a top broker here at the company. He's since moved to Arizona, Phoenix, and kind of doing the same thing over there. But anyway, I liked what I saw. I was like, hey, let me just give this a go. I'm going to try it. And I saw these spreadsheets and I was like, dude, this is gibberish. I don't know. Like, do I really want to stare at these like numbers all day? Like, what am I getting out of this? But hey, whatever. I'm just going to try it and see how I do after like 2 months. See if this interests me. And sure enough, after 2 months, I started understanding the spreadsheets, started seeing the most exciting thing that I think about real estate, and that's that this not only offers a great way to make money, make a good amount of money, especially relative to the amount of effort you put in, but also it provides this runway and this clear pathway to financial freedom where one day you don't have to work. You can just own your real estate that you've accumulated over a decade.
You're not going to be rich quick. You're going to get rich for sure.
And to me, it's not just about rich, like, I'm going to be making a lot of money for the rest of my life at this pharmaceutical company where I have to sell every single year. It's like, dude, in 10 to 15 years, like my whole goal is after 15 years from when I started in 2015, I should be at a point where I don't have to do anything day to day because my assets will be paying, plenty of money for myself and my family to survive every month and do amazing, cool things in different parts of the world.
Do you have a number in your head monthly?
I do.
What is it?
I always say 100,000. I want to get to 100,000 a month.
1.2 million a year passively.
So here's the goal. 1.2 million a year. That's $100,000 a month. That is $20 million at a 6% cash on cash return. So I just need to have $20 million worth of net worth within the next 5 years to hit that number. Let's be honest, if I hit even half that number, I'm going to be like in a great position where I probably would still do whatever I want to do for the rest of my life.
I mean, 50,000 a month is not a bad spot to be in.
I would agree. Sitting over here on Mountain living.
We need to double this. Let's get back on the phone.
That's only like one private jet ride per month. No, I really don't need more than 20, 30,000 a month. But I also want to give back in many ways, and I think that having that extra buffer would allow me to like give in so many ways.
Agreed.
And apply to. I grew up with a sister that had special needs, cerebral palsy, and that was due to being born 2 months early. And not only was there that, there was also minor developmental disabilities, and we were really involved in the special needs community. And I see one of my big dreams is to give back by creating special needs housing, because there's a huge undersupply that it almost doesn't exist. And there's a lot of families who really, their kids are 18, 20, 24, and the kids are just kind of, at that point, they're out of the system, but they don't really fit in anymore. So they just kind of stay at home and watch TV all day. And the family wants their kid to be happy doing something, socializing, but like there's not really any facilitations for that in the system. But to create housing for them would be awesome, because it puts the special needs kids with other kids who are also in that same realm, and they would be at the same operational level and get along well for that reason, not feel like the outcast all the time. Family gets their freedom because they're no longer housing, they get to now live their life. They don't have to worry about their kid anymore, and that's what evolution as you grow. You want to have your kids and then get your life back and then retire in the sunset in Fiji. So it fills a huge need in society, and actually that's one of the things I'm considering with one of my latest projects in San Diego State. Is we add a lot of bedrooms. We do sometimes 13 bedrooms on a property, but I think that's a perfect scenario for special needs. And also we have the San Diego State infrastructure really close by, so we could probably integrate them into some programs on campus, and using the fields and things like that to keep them active and create a really cool environment. And probably a business model that we can replicate and make a lot of money from.
Love that, bro. It's awesome. Sounds like you have a mission.
I do, yeah. My wife and I talk about it a lot because, to be honest, I love San Diego, growing up here my whole life, but I don't see myself here long term. In fact, in like the next 4 years, 4 years from now, we're planning on actually moving to Europe and having our assets just
in France
pay for us. We're looking at
You speak French?
I do, yeah. I speak French. And I have access to the passport. I'm working on it right now. But
want to live there? Winters in France, dude. Well, a lot of rain.
Well, yeah, there's winter. Honestly, it's not that bad. I've been there in the winter. I've been there in the summer. It's beautiful. I don't know that I'd be France though. We've traveled all over Europe. There's a lot of places. We got married in northern Italy on the border of Austria. And it's just beautiful up there, and it's different than here. I mean, yeah, there's the rain.
I drove from Monaco all the way down to Rome one time.
Oh, that was a beautiful drive, I bet.
I lived in Sweden. Those winters are horrible.
Are you
Yeah,
Swedish?
I've been to 45 countries, dude.
No way. That's epic, dude.
Yeah, I lived in Europe.
Oh yeah.
I've been to France 3 times, been to Rome.
No way.
Yeah, all over Europe. I've been in Hungary, Sweden, I've been in Latvia.
Are you
all over?
Are you American or European background, or are you just like traveling?
I'm just American mutt, dude.
American mutt.
Yeah,
love it.
But I'm a traveler, like hardcore traveler.
Dude, I'm addicted to it, and that's what I love to do. And what's interesting is just the culture is so rich over there, and like I said, I grew up in San Diego. This is one of the best places in the world. The only thing we miss here is the greenery and the seasons, and for that reason, we're almost looking forward to a little bit of rain.
So your pops is French and your mom is American.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you guys speak English at home or French at home?
It was like a medley.
And is your mom fluent in French as well?
She's fluent in French.
Really?
My parents met in Club Med, which is like a resort industry, and they got moved to different parts of the world, so they've traveled everywhere and gave me the travel bug. My mom learned. They both speak 5 languages, so they're very international. I just speak French and English, and then a little bit of Spanish, enough to get by with my contractors. But I enjoy speaking Spanish. Took it in school too. But in general, it's. I just love traveling, and I think that being in Europe would be really cool because we could just every weekend just go to Sweden or go to Switzerland or go to Norway or go to Morocco or anywhere.
So how I'm understanding it is you want to essentially really, really invest here for the next maybe half decade, 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. Really, really shore up your passive income and your investment opportunities here in the real estate space.
Yeah, exactly.
Then move overseas, potentially enjoy some of the fruits of your labor, be able to travel quite a bit, and then figure out what else you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's cool is also the cost of living in France and most of these countries overseas is like half of what it is here. So that $20,000, $30,000 a month, which, that might feel like $60,000 a month over there because of the cost of goods are just much cheaper, and the cost of rent is much cheaper in a lot of the cities where we want to live. Maybe not Paris or Switzerland, but like a lot of the cities where we would actually want to move to is about half the cost of living is here. So,
yeah.
So
that was a long answer to the question of the brokerage, but let me go with number 2. Okay. What are you looking for in your business right now, Alexio? I'm going to just go out on a limb and say you're looking for really good deals. You're looking for potentially capital partners. But what else? Buyers, obviously, and sellers. You're probably looking for new units if you're doing the property management thing. But I'm asking you what you are looking for right now.
I think right now the biggest thing I'm looking for, like I said, for the next 4 years is going to be finding good deals where I can compound my equity so that I can get to a position where I just park the equity and let it cash flow at a return on the equity.
And are those SFRs, are those ADUs, are these multifamily?
I mean, I like up to 4 units, probably something in the $1 to $2 million price point where there's ADU potential. Maybe that means I can, in one of these areas like North Park, I want something where I can, right now I'm trying to transition to things where I can build like 4 to 10 ADUs. In the backyard, because there's a bigger equity swing. Yeah, it's going to take me 2-3 years, but I can just allocate my time and energy to one project that's going to make me, a couple $1 million versus multiple projects that are going to get me there.
And generally, how are you sourcing deals at this point? Is it just like being out in the market, like acting as a broker and getting leads, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of the wholesale list or whatever, but like here at South Coast, all the guys here are finding deals and they know they can represent me. Anybody who brings me a deal can represent me on the purchase, and so I'm hearing about things before they come about, or sometimes like in San Diego State area, it's not even coming from South Coast, it's just other people in the area who get control of a deal and say, hey, I don't have enough equity for this one, I'll just sell it, I'll wholesale it off to you. I say, okay, sure, yeah, there's enough spread here, this is what I can offer. So it works. There's all kinds of ways. I never burn a bridge with anybody. It's, you bring me the information, I'm not going to go around you, I will work through you. And unfortunately, there's some people in town who don't do good business. The slogan of my group is good business only, and I've dealt with situations of bad business in the past with brokers, and then also with just clients of mine who are now actually in jail.
Well, I don't think you're going to last long in any market doing bad business.
Yeah.
We talk about that all the time. I don't dwell on negativity, but there are people that get, let's say, exposed really quickly, and they're out. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I'll tell you, just from like a standpoint of being a business owner, why?
Yeah.
It's better to do good business. You sleep better at night. You have longevity. Like, You're going to continue to get deal flow. It's enjoyable to make money with friends. Why do you burn people? I say you're stepping over dollars for pennies.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
I agree.
And you can't scale that way.
No, you can't. But even if say you do and you survive and you're sitting on your yacht in Monaco Harbor one day with a helicopter in the front and you're looking back at all of the skeletons of people that you fucked over to get there, like, are you actually going to be happy with your yacht?
I don't know. I know obviously you're right. I thought about that too. There are people out there that it's like, yeah, those guys schemed and connived their way to the top. Are they happy? I don't really care. No offense to you. I don't really care because at the end of the day, that's not how I do it. That's not how I want to, like, that's not who I choose to do business with. And to each their own. But ultimately, I feel like you're going to learn more, gain more, and be able to do way more with people who are honest. And that comes from both sides of the table.
Totally.
All right. So I think question number 3 would be for me, Alexio. We talked about where you come from. We talked about what you're doing. We talked about your career. You jumped right into the commercial real estate space. We talked about, how you chose the abundance mindset. You have new capital partners now, new friends, new ways to access deals and acquire them. And you're learning essentially how to leverage more and get more bandwidth out of the same amount of dollars.
Yeah, I think right now I'm also focusing, I've just kind of been so interested in all these things and I'm trying to narrow my interests and my focus to the things that are going to be most valuable.
Are you sure you weren't just an engineer at heart, dude?
Probably. I don't know. I honestly am interested in engineering. I love also, eventually I want to
Are you an Elon fan?
I am, dude. It's crazy to me the people who aren't. I mean, yeah, you don't love everything about everybody, okay? But the guy he is just, any obstacle comes his way, good luck obstacle, because it is blown
He's
out of the way.
He's a very, very unique individual.
And not only that, we talk about wearing a lot of hats. I'm overflowing many times of the year. My wife hears it. Everybody around me is like, dude, what the fuck, man? You can't be doing all these things.
Yeah, you can.
Elon is an example.
If you love work, you can. I can do a lot. And people are like, yeah, to answer your question before, do you have too many hats? And I'm like, no. I'm good. I like work.
Well, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but it's about balancing it all because you do get pulled in more direction. I got a family now too. I can't just not show up at 5 p.m. every night.
This guy's sleeping on a plane half his life, bro.
He's got a family too, but his family does take a hit because they don't see him very often. So that's been okay for him. He's allocated his resources to what's important to him. And that might be some reason that some people don't like him.
But they talk about too, work-life balance. If you're going to be a real entrepreneur, you're not going to have work-life balance at the beginning. And so that became a cultural thing. This is kind of a side topic, but that became kind of a cultural thing, a big sort of talking point, work-life balance. But I think you're going to be stuck as a W-2. Creating a startup, learning, doing the things that you've done to get where you are in your career, to be able to read a spreadsheet and it's not just all gibberish, to be able to speak in terms of debt, equity, mezz debt, cap stacks, contractor language, broker language, seller language, buyer language, property management, tenant language. To be able to speak all those languages required work, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Effort, energy. And to gain that experience, no one's going to just drop that in your lap.
You can't even read it in a book. You just have to do it because it's different in every market.
You have to do it, and also you have to pay your bills at the same time. So how much time do you have in a day, and how quickly do you want to get there?
And you got to be there for your family, or that's going to fall apart too.
That's the other thing. You do, and you have to be there for your relationships. You have to be there for your own mental health, physical. I mean, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Let's not get in the weeds on all that. Let's move to
I am interested.
Your
though.
questions.
Do you mind if I ask you one real quick?
Yeah, bro, go.
We talked about family and physical health. You look like you're in great shape, and you're also wearing all these hats. What do you How do you make it all happen and keep the kid? Are you married? Do you have a kid?
I have 3 kids. Yeah.
3 kids.
Yeah.
So how do you keep your kids happy with the involvement that they get from you? You still stay in shape, and then you still wear all the different hats you do. What's your secret sauce?
There's no secret sauce, dude. Like LeBron
wake up
says,
early,
LeBron says there's no magic pill.
No.
I keep saying I love work, dude. I literally, I'm an 100% all-in type of guy. Mm-hmm. If you're my guy and you're on my team, you're my guy and you're on my team. So when it comes to getting the job done, that's just what I do. I hyper-focus and I go all in and I just slam it until it's done. So you don't have
any routines? You just kind of take it as it goes?
No, dude, I don't have any these hacks and stuff that you see online. I don't. I wake up in the morning. Most of the time when I wake up, I never set my alarm. That's generally anywhere from like 5 to 7. If I can sleep into like 8 or 9, bro, I'll take it. 100%. Like if I can sleep in longer, I'll take that sleep. I generally get up, I exercise, depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing. Like right now I'm training for a half marathon on October 27th, and I'm training for a half Ironman that I'm running on December 8th.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm on the treadmill. I lift weights. I try to eat healthy as I can. A lot of Mexican food.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, stay off the processed stuff. But yeah, bro. And then for me, it's systematic. Where's a way that we can capitalize on something? Where's a problem? Where's an opportunity? Find it, reverse engineer it back in a bite-sized steps, and then do the work. I feel like people can get analysis, a paralysis by analysis. They can consume way too much content. They can be on YouTube way too long. They can read every single book out there. They can go to every single mastermind and join it. They can go to every single meetup, and then they just consume all this, consume, and then they become an expert, but they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
They're not investing. They're not taking their lumps like you did and like I did to get where you can actually deploy capital, feel confident as an operator, and get to the place where you want to go.
Totally.
Because it's cool to sound.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking shots. It's cool to sound smart, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be capable to do something and get the job done than to sound like I'm a genius.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that a lot of people mistake like the content creators like us for just kind of bragging about our successes and stuff. When in reality, like the content I put out there is actually stuff that I'm like, wow, hey, this is something cool that I learned on this last project. Hopefully this helps you learn more.
100%.
And also,
it does shine through, by the way, in your stuff.
Oh, thank you.
It does.
I appreciate that.
No, I see that. I see that you're actually trying to provide real value. You're sharing sort of, hey, this is something that I thought about. Now, I will tell you this, and this I say this with all humility.
Yeah.
I think that it's focused on more like guys like me that are in the space.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe that's your intent. But I feel like the language that you're coming across from is like, it's very ADU, it's very developer-ish.
Right, yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
And so if you're trying to go for a broader audience, that may be a challenge. If you're trying to attract guys like me, well, here I am, so it's working.
Yeah, hey, I got a sick pod. I found my way on a Skip the Lines podcast. There we go. Let's do it. No, dude, I appreciate that, and I think that my podcast will always just be kind of where my head's at that given time, or not my podcast, but my content. There's times where I talk about property management stuff because that's what I'm going through, or there's times where I'm talking about deal, like what's going on with a real estate deal, which is a little bit complicated sometimes because you got to wait until the deal's done. You got to be very careful about how you talk about it because you don't want to offend anybody who is involved in it.
100%. You got to wait for it to close. You got to sort of navigate that water.
And honestly, that's the case with a lot of stuff. We can't talk about everything on content because a lot of it has to happen behind closed doors. You can't talk about how the city actually works versus what they say works. Otherwise, you kind of put a target on yourself for
bro, take it easy.
Yeah. Cut that one out of the podcast.
Edit.
No, but even with
we love you, Todd.
Even with property management or talking about recent real estate deals, you don't want to publish something that someone could take offense to and could actually adversely affect your business. But I try to be real with everything that I say on social media, and I always am truthful in person as well.
After seeing your content and now meeting you, I feel like you and I could probably do business. Because that's the thing about content, you never know.
Yeah.
Right? And I talked to you on the phone, like there's a lot of people that put out a lot of stuff, and it's like, I feel like if you lift that hood up, some I know for sure, some just my gut's telling me you lift that hood up, it's just not. They're saying it's a 10 cylinder or an 8 cylinder there, and it's probably more like.
Yeah. No, I see that sometimes too, and I'm like, I just don't see, like these guys are spitting out numbers.
This thing could not propel a moped forward. Like you're not, these pistons are not what you're claiming them to
cardboard.
be.
Yeah, bro.
Yabba-dabba-doo.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I watch your content, and I think it shines through that you're passionate and you know what you're doing too. You're walking properties, and it's really interesting stuff. You can talk about a lot of stuff behind a desk. It's easy to set up the lights and stuff, but to get some guy out there, coordinate them, actually talk to him while you're at a job site, maybe it's during an inspection, the tenants are in the other room, you're trying to like navigate all of the all the politics involved with just being in someone else's space, but still be able to like convey and talk about what you're planning on doing to this space, and if it makes sense, doesn't make sense, like that's really valuable content. It's not easy to get. It's a lot harder than sitting in a room like this.
I appreciate it. That's kind of you. I would just say, like everything else, bro, anyone can do it. It's just reps. Like Elon talked about. I saw a clip of him the other day, and he was basically like, you can learn so much more stuff than you give yourself credit for.
Totally.
He's like, people can learn so much.
It's unlimited. It's almost overwhelming because everything is so interesting. So that's why I've really I started to just start learning all kinds of stuff, and I found myself at the end of the day like, I can't keep up with all this and like still hang out with the family. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to give up on my the family time. So now it's like about being selective. You're only human. You got these many hours in the day. Try to be very efficient with these time blocks to focus on these different things.
Time management is a skill set, brother.
I used to be able to just drive. I used to just go drive a project, check on it. I don't have time to do that. It's very calculated. Okay, this guy's going to finish this job. I'll check it on this day. Appliances are arriving. I want to make sure I show up after they do. So
what software do you use?
Oh, dude, I don't have a software.
You're using Google Spreadsheets.
I use Google Spreadsheets to track all of my spending, and then I reconcile it with the bank accounts. And then also for property management, I recently switched over to AppFolio, which is really cool. It's got a lot of, it's pretty robust, and I'm only scratching the surface on just handling it for management stuff. But
are you taking on more property management units?
No, I only manage our own stuff.
Only your own, your family's portfolio.
I don't have the bandwidth. I mean, I thought about starting a company to do that. But it's just not worth my time. I'd rather just manage my own stuff because I'm only here for another 4 years based on my plan. I don't need to build out this huge business. Yeah, I could sell it for something, but it's going to take away way too much of my time in the next 4 years. I need to focus on the real equity growth opportunities, which are like the project management and finding good deals, and then building my brokerage business so that I have enough.
Any more questions?
What is the biggest, you've spent a lot of time on social media. We all know you're crushing on ADUs, doing equity plays like I am. What's the biggest benefit you've gotten from all the work you've put into social media? Are you getting more clients? Are you meeting cool people? What is it?
I think the cool thing about social media is it's like business. I think it takes effort to figure it out and consistency to start seeing gains.
Oh. Yeah.
There's so many people that start out to be an influencer, and for the record, I do not want to be an influencer. I don't ever want to be associated with that word. Mm-hmm. I use my social media to show people like literally what I'm doing and what our company is doing. I use it as a marketing tool. That's the approach that I have. And so when I disassociate my feelings from it of, oh, this only got 4 likes or this one got 200 likes, I had a post go viral, I'm gonna have 19 million views on this post.
Jesus, dude, that's awesome. What kind of post was that?
It was like it was a meme. It was a property management meme.
Dude, the memes. I was telling my social guy, I was like, dude, I think the memes are like where it's at right now. That's where you can really go viral and get a lot of like.
That meme blew up. It's still blowing up. I probably got 200,000 likes since we've been sitting here. But like, you disassociate yourself from the ego of the thing. This is a marketing tool. It's an algorithm. I'm going to use it. It's not going to use me. So it doesn't matter what I put out today as far as who likes it or doesn't like it. I think it represents what I'm doing. I think it has value. I've put effort and energy into it. I'm going to put it out.
People know what I'm looking for.
And then I'm going to move on to the next thing that I'm doing in my day. So tomorrow I'm going to put out a new piece of content and I forgot about yesterday.
Do you do it yourself? You post it all?
I have multiple VAs.
Okay.
I am still very connected to it too, though, because I want it to be. I want when people see me. That's the other thing I was going to get to. The other point: if people consume your content and they're following you, because you said it to me on the phone today, and I've heard this many, many, many times now. I feel like I already know you.
Right.
Because you're used to seeing me, you're used to my voice, kind of my mannerisms, totally, whatever, and I try to be authentic. Not try. I am authentic. So when people meet me, that makes a connection, which I feel like you gain time of us not having had coffee or beers, but because totally. You've been following me, whatever, for 6 months, and now we meet, it's like, oh, that's Jonathan.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest benefit. Yes, I'm getting customers. Yes, we're getting opportunities. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're getting leads. All of those things.
And you're helping people. That probably feels good.
Yes. Forgot about that part.
Whether they use you or not.
You're creating value. You're helping people, to your point too. Like, I walked through this shitty thing. This is what happened. Don't do this thing. And the people that are going to listen are going to listen, bro. The people that aren't. What are you going to do?
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Well, I think we're very similar in all of our endeavors and kind of a similar mindset. So I think we'll.
Also, we're both strikingly handsome.
Oh, especially that. I mean, one of us more than the other, but we'll leave that to the audience.
That's you, bro. How we doing?
All right, brother. Well, thanks for coming on my show. I'm happy to be on your show. And
Alexio, I have two more. I have a question for you before we go, before we end this thing.
Okay.
Skip the line hacks for my audience.
Okay.
We do it at the end of the show. It's essentially the reason why I started my pod was because, like I told you before, I didn't come from much. There were people that came before me that helped me, similar to maybe your pops, your grandpa, the guy who you shadowed, and then the guys that have helped you along the way here. Hey, don't make this mistake. Hey, I went through that. Hey, don't do that. Don't go that way. Don't go to that bar, etc.
Okay.
How can you, and the way I positioned it in my mind, just so you understand, breaking it down, was every single person sort of does what the herd is doing by nature, most people. So if you have a group of kids or people at a conference, they walk out and it's hot in there, they're going to walk immediately to the nearest water fountain, the nearest bathroom, and they're going to do what?
They're going to wait in line.
They're going to queue up.
Yeah.
So how could you essentially figure out where there's another bathroom or another water fountain? Maybe it's a little bit further away, or it's up a flight of stairs you didn't know about. You're the guy that has the keys or the access to the other water fountain. So share some things with the people who watch my podcast that potentially are looking for ways to catapult their career and skip some lines.
I think the biggest, everybody says, you got to find a mentor who is doing what you want to be doing.
High 90 percentile of the first answer is mentorship.
Right. Yeah, and I would say there's a reason for that. But not only just go find them and follow them around, it's provide value to the mentor. Like, figure out what they need and then just start doing it for free. And then just hang around them as much as you can. And they're probably going to invite you into deals. Like, I've had lots of guys work with me, and guys who currently work with me who are like really excited to get into deals. And like, I've been through the trials, tribulations. I have the capital now. I know how to put all the pieces together. I can qualify for the loans, and I'll let them come in as kind of, with whatever equity piece they can afford to put down, but be involved in the deal and then follow, shadow, and like learn the whole process. And then that way they can, one, they're going to double their equity on the deal, but then two, they can then do that for themselves and for their friends and family on the next deal. But they wouldn't even be in the talk, they wouldn't even be talking to me or even have that opportunity. I wouldn't just do that for anybody. I want to do that for the people who are learning and like constantly trying to provide value and do deals here with me. So the moral of the story being, they're providing value to me, their mentor, and I'm providing them opportunities that I wouldn't get, that no one else would have access to, and it's going to fast track their way to financial freedom, and that's how they're going to skip the line.
And in turn, they're bringing you equity, and they're bringing you deal flow.
Right. Well,
and you're helping them get along on their career, where down the line, potentially, you have some liquidity, you have some capital sitting around that's dry, and they bring you a juicy deal, and you can get in as an equity partner.
Exactly. And not everybody, oftentimes you have a wholesale deal or a deal that you have control of, and you're like, dude, I gotta do this deal. There's so much upside on it, but I just can't find anybody I have people who want to buy it, but none of them want to let me partner with them. Like, or they want to partner with me, but I know they're going to like just kind of, I'm just going to be a silent partner. I won't see any of the growth. I won't get to learn it all. But if you can find someone who will let you partner with them and then show you the ropes of that deal, live through that experience, and then also see the gains on the flip side, then that's just going to give you the confidence you need to replicate that. And it takes a lot of people standing in line for a long time just to get that experience.
Guys, the value of experience and knowledge and mentorship is worth every dollar, as long as you're willing to bring that mentor value, as long as you're willing to carry your end of the bargain, as long as that mentor that you're placing your trust in is worth their salt. You can never go wrong. All right, that's skip the line hack number one.
Well, let me finish real quick, just off that note. That's why you should get in touch with Jonathan, because he's got, as he started this podcast out, a couple opportunities to joint venture or get involved with him. I'm sure if someone were to bring you a really good deal, you would be more than happy to let them be a part of it if there was enough meat on the bone.
100%.
And that would be a great way for someone to get started and do exactly what we said. To skip
I do deals like that all the time, guys. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the shout out. Do you have another one for the people? Skip the line hack, dude.
Another skip the line hack. learn how to use debt. I don't really, a lot of people are like, I'm going to pay down my house. What's your rate? 2.7%.
Don't do that.
I'm like, what are you talking about, man? That is the cheapest debt you can get. Sometimes they say that before they'll pay off their 7% car loan. I'm like, the numbers, don't you understand how debt works? You keep the stupid cheap debt because that is like free money.
I have a funny story.
You can
I'm gonna tell
invest
you
your
about
money in a treasury
when we
right
get
now,
offline here,
4%.
I have a funny story I'm going to tell you about that happened to me yesterday about that.
I mean, I hear it all the time. It's the most common thing. People think that that's the smart financial decision when the house is the cheapest debt you can ever get, especially when people are talking about the 2, 3, 4% loans that they have from a couple years ago. There's no reason you should pay that off. You can't even get access to that today. It's worth
Keep your
more.
COVID loans, guys. They might never come back.
It does not make any sense. You should use that money instead, invest it at really anywhere, which is going to be a much higher rate of return than the 2, 3, 4% that you're currently paying on the house. So you're going to get more money every single month just by putting it in another asset class. The most money if you put it in real estate.
All right. Thank you, man. I really enjoyed this. It was a pleasure to meet you in person.
You too, man.
It went different than I thought it was going to go. This was the first one we put together, so we're going to mash it up. Going to have our people, our producers, make us look pretty and put it out. So we hope you guys enjoyed the Skip the Lines podcast, mashed with
the CashFlowAlexio show. It was awesome doing this medley with you, Jonathan. We should do it again in another 6 months. I'm sure we'll have a lot of new little tidbits to talk about then.
Love it, bro.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. Sick, bro. That was dope. How long was that?